Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to this week's edition of the Petty and Ill-Informed podcast, where we discuss things in a petty and ill-informed manner. Tom, don't be nice to Gabby. Okay, just don't. Don't ever be nice to Gabby. She's the deranged superfan. Treat her as such. How are you this week, Kevin?
I'm doing well, everybody. I've been gone for a while. Back now.
Treat her as such. How are you? Tom,
Uh-oh.
I swear to God.
Well, I was just sorting the YouTube muting as soon as it went live, and it just came through for 1 second.
Oh, yeah. Okay. Well, as you can tell, we run a professional and extremely disciplined team here. So, first of all, tonight, ladies and gentlemen, I usually let Tom and Kevin talk for a bit, but tonight we got ourselves a bit of news. And I'm going to bring that up first, and then you guys can talk amongst yourselves.
Okay, what you got for us then, Richard?
Here we go. Adam Davies has written a new book. It's called Portals and Monsters.
Right? Are you bringing him on? Did you not get him to come on?
No. I couldn't get him to come on. Can you hear me?
Yeah, well, you broke up a wee bit. It was really hard to get Adam to go on and talk about it. I mean, it is really hard to get Adam to come on. I've never gotten him on live to talk about anything, so it's very rare that he does do that. But yeah, I was glad to see that he came out with this book. Did you talk to him about it much, Richard? Or what did he say?
Yeah, I talked to him about, well, it was really more the screenshot was about what Matthew Johnson had to say than Adam Davies, really.
What did he say?
I can't show a screenshot and in the podcast. It just kills my internet connection for some reason. But I'll bring the screenshot back up so you can look at it. I probably won't be able to say much while it's on. There we go. So, will Adam Davies give credit to whom credit is due, is what Johnson's saying about Adam Davies's fictional novel that he has written.
Okay. So what is that supposed to mean? I mean, that's an odd thing to say, because I will say this. I mean, logically speaking, wouldn't the person who would be the person who would have credit be nature, or whoever opened the portal, or the portal itself, or somebody else? It seemed like if you were saying, I'm going to give credit to this person, they would have to be responsible, i.e. created it, i.e. hoaxed it, right?
Yeah.
Logically does not make sense. That if I'm going to give somebody credit for something, then they would have had to have created it.
Yep. Most people would just say, congratulations, Adam, you wrote a book. I've been trying for 15 years to write a book. I can never get more than halfway through. He has written a full novel that has been published and is available now, has been published by a real publishing company, not self-published like certain other people have done. I'm not mentioning any names.
Yeah.
To rise above it. But
you'd have to be really desperate to do that, to self-publish your own work. You'd have to be sadder to get your mum to pay for it, like I did.
Wasn't actually talking about you, but we were talking. What?
Yeah, that's what we call in the business an Augie. That was an own goal there.
Oh, well, no, it was.
I was talking about Matthew Johnson, who famously self-published 2 books and has the copies in the garage because no one bought any. What?
So you were insulting me accidentally, not deliberately.
I wasn't talking remotely about you, Tom. You weren't involved in the conversation.
I'm mucking about. Carry on, Richard.
All right.
No, we're not leaving the whole mum paid for a self-published book.
Okay, sure. Well, just briefly then. No, exactly that. So,
well, what's it about?
Well, it's when I made a record, Kevin. It's yeah, it's fortunate that we end up talking about it here because no one else gives a flying foobar. But hey, when I finished finally after 15 years of slaving away on and off at this record, started in 2003, and in 2018 it was finally nearing completion. And I said, "Mum, for my birthday, can you pay to have my record made, please? Because because I found a company that would do it, and to pay for 100 CDs to be pressed, it cost £500." And I sold them I said to Mum, "You will get some of the money back. You probably won't get all of it back because some I'm going to give away and stuff." And so, because I had paid for bits of it, like the computer in the first place, various bits of things that made it a presence, like my bass guitar pedals were from my dad 20 years before, and I've just looked after them and stuff. So by the time I'd got rid of all 100 CDs, I think Mum got about half the money back because some of the money that I got from sales, we blew on a party, on the launch album party. And that was it, really. So my mum got 250 odd quid back, and 100 people have a CD sat on a shelf somewhere gathering dust.
Okay.
Right. So it wasn't even a book you had. So it literally had hardly anything to do with what I was talking about.
Well, no, it was still a self-published creative work. I mean,
but it's not a book. It's your album.
Well, it was self-financed and pretty close to being
self-financed. It sounds to me like we were talking about something that's not even remotely connected to what you're talking about, and you just inserted yourself into the conversation.
Well, I made it all about me in order to do myself down. What can I say?
That's literally what happened. Yes. Anyway, should we just move away from Tom's insipid need for attention? As far as I'm concerned, Adam Davis wrote a book, and that's something to be very proud of. You made an album, and that's something to be proud of as well. I'm not ever going to take that away.
But that's not the only book that Adam has written that's a fictional book. I've got his copy of his other book.
Right. Yeah. Just another book, though. Writing any book, man.
No. I understand, but this is like the second book that he's written, like in the last, I think, couple of. I mean, I in the last few years, I'm gonna be honest with you. Time has gone by, but the last book that he wrote was about something in Alaska, like the Alaska monster or something, and then this one here is about this other thing. But I like the fact that he does seem to write books about places he's been. You know what I mean? And so he goes on expeditions or whatever at certain areas, and then this is a story. But that's it's sort of a way I believe, and this is what what I think is it's a way for him to talk about things in the abstract that that you say, well, because it's very hard to be sort of looked at as a person who believes in the one aspect, and not I've had a very long conversation with Adam, and he was just trying to prove everything in a sort of a flesh and bone way of looking at things, and then he sort of has this weird experience, and that seems to stand apart singularly in his memory as the way that it was, and just like I seem to in that case, and that's it. Rather than let somebody else define the scenario, then he wrote this book, and I think it is because in a lot of ways, Dr. J a few months ago kind of taunted him with it. You know what I mean? And then sort of, and then he comes out and writes the book, and then now he wants to be part of it. So
he wants to attach his name to the project.
Right. So, I mean, would that be the way that it is? I mean, in a
Well, that's
way,
Johnson's MO, isn't it? I mean, he's
yeah.
always trying to attach himself to people with more credibility. Remember when he, with his first book, when he made a huge deal about how Bob Gimlin wrote the foreword, and then of course it came out that Bob Gimlin had in fact not wrote the foreword.
I'm still of the brother. I'm still of the opinion that he wrote it. I am still of the opinion that Bob Gimlin wrote that, and I believe that Matt was telling the truth, and I have and I think that Russell LaCord told him to not do it because whenever he agreed to originally write it, it's when Tom Yamron was looking after Bob Gimlin, and in the meantime, the other guy started to look after him, and then that's when shit changed. You know what I'm saying? So
that's that whole Russell Accord Bob Gimlin thing. That's a whole other conversation.
Well, yeah, but what I'm saying is it's never in Bigfoot as it seems.
Yeah,
there's always 2 or 3 level of undercurrents under anything, but at this point in time, it's irrelevant. My opinion is my opinion, and I can't prove any of this, but and I'm not going to put my hand on the Bible and swear that all this stuff happened or not happened. But that's my opinion about that scenario.
But Tom Yanner, Russell Accord, Bob Gimlin needs looking after because if no one's watching him, he'll go back to Bluff Creek, murder a bunch of Bigfoot again,
and eat them. Yeah, exactly.
He needs someone holding his leash.
Yeah,
we know what's going on, Gimlin. You can't hide the truth forever.
You think this is it? I mean, I would almost say that at this point in time, because Russell's got his own program and everything like that, and I don't think we're going to see Bob again. I think that might be it. I think that if the next time Bob shows up somewhere, you might want to go and see him because I think that might be the last time anybody sees him. That's my opinion, because I don't think he got. I mean, it didn't seem like he was getting out. Now you don't see the videos with Bob and Russell in them anymore. Bob sort of has fallen off the face of the earth.
He's an old man. He's done his bit.
Well, I understand that, but
I mean, either the Patterson Gimlin footage is real and he's a legend for recording it, or it's a hoax and he's a legend for maintaining a hoax for 50 years.
Oh, come on.
So, come on.
It's fake.
Either way.
Hell. It's fake as hell and everybody knows it.
just no magic left for Kevin.
No, I mean, every time something comes out anymore, and it's been a tough one for me because I honestly, when I was a kid, really super believed in it. And as everybody has enhanced it and enhanced it and enhanced it and enhanced it.
I was trying to play devil's advocate, but yeah, the more enhanced it gets, the more fake it looks.
It's just worse again. It's the worst.
Yeah.
But,
But he's still a legend because he's been able to maintain a hoax for 50 years. Who else has done that?
Oh, no, yeah, no, perfect. That's what I'm saying. I mean, this is the thing. I mean, if you talk about... the alien autopsy film, which was supposedly filmed in America, was filmed in London, and that whole thing. But the thing about it is that even though people come out and say, "Yep, no, I was the cameraman, I was the guy who did this, and I was the guy that did that," it doesn't matter. Even if they take you to the apartment that they filmed it in and tell you how they did it and everything like that, people will not believe that it's still. So it won't matter. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I mean, Bob Gimlin could come out tomorrow and say it was fake and people wouldn't believe him. They'd be like, no, the government made him say that.
Yeah. Well, we all know that the government...
Just one time. Well, we like to have fun with the insane MK Davis theory. But just one time, I want to finish this show, have my phone ring, and Bob Gimlin be like, I did eat those fucking Bigfoot, and then just hang up. It would just make my life complete. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I know.
Well,
I
Tom
know.
has no idea what we're talking about. So
No.
Oh, I'm beyond lost. I gave up about 10 minutes ago, guys.
Yeah.
So it is big. We're both from Bigfoot community, and
Yeah, I gathered that much. So, what is the 50-year-old hoax?
the
Oh,
Patterson
you know,
Gimlin footage.
well,
Everyone knows what the Patterson Gimlin footage, even if they don't know what it's called.
Oh yeah. Well, you remember Tom, whenever you used to watch. I mean, back in the day when you were watching like In Search of, or you see this black and white grainy footage of the Bigfoot walking across the in the forest and then looking back over its shoulder at the people who were supposedly filming it. You know that footage. Is supposedly the film that everybody always looks at if you're talking about um, Bigfoot. The Bluff Creek footage is supposedly the world's best picture of thing where, but nobody supposedly has debunked it. Supposedly, I don't know. But then again, everybody who
Come on, the dude that was in the suit has admitted.
Oh yeah, no. Bob Hieronymus says it was him, and but the thing about it is anybody that has a vested interest in it, that supposedly, I mean, uh, you know, everybody who says it's you can't debunk it has a vested interest in it not being debunked, as it were.
Yeah.
So therefore, that's. I mean, there's plenty of people. If you look at it like this, there's one scientist, at Idaho State University or whatever, who says it may be real, and he believes that the footage is real of that, and 9 billion other people who are not going to the Idaho State University that says can't be ours looking at it. You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
that's the way that goes. But
So congratulations, Adam, on writing another book. Matt Johnson, if you end up reading this, I did reach out to Adam Davis, and I'm afraid you are not mentioned at all. So.
Well, why would he read him? Why would he mention him in a fictional book?
Well, as you know, in the foreword, this book was inspired by the amazing experience I had at the hands of Caligula and Superman Matt Johnson's, an Oregon interaction area.
There's not enough room for Matt Johnson to be named in it because Bob Gimlin wrote it. I'm sorry.
Adam Davis did write a foreword dedicated to Matt Johnson, but I'm afraid Bob Gimlin ate it.
Yeah, he ate it.
So, yeah. Okay, that's what happened there. So yeah, congratulations, Adam, on your new book.
Yeah,
big achievement. Like I said, I've tried for years and never been able to do it.
Do you have?
Well,
do you have to be?
Go ahead.
Sorry, just saying. Do you have to be massively into Bigfoot to know these names automatically and stuff?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Matt Johnson, especially.
Yeah, you can't. You can't be just a regular observer. Of course, if you were just a regular observer about Bigfoot, you wouldn't know any of these people. That's
true. They're pretty much unknown these days.
I mean, you might know the people from Finding Bigfoot, like Cliff and Bobo and Matt Moneymaker and Renee. You might know them.
The big names in the Bigfoot industry, they include Todd Standing, Kelly Shaw, Stephen Struford, that other guy, Rick Dyer. There we go. Rick Torriolo, there's another big name. These are big names in Bigfooting.
Yeah, but I mean, you know what I mean? Like, if you go, but here's the thing. If you see a person with because a lot of people around here, they have Bigfoot stickers on their car or whatever. It's cute, that's the thing. People think, okay, well, that's, a lot of people think Bluff Creek's in Washington State, for all I know. I mean, it's like they don't know if it's in California, that's for sure. And then, but because Oregon and Washington are so supposedly that those are the places that you would think that Bigfoot would live in, the big forest, right here. But if you were to show up with, Richter or, Cliff or Bobo or anything like that, stand next to something, most people wouldn't know who they were, even if they had a Bigfoot sticker on your car. You know what I mean? So, or
I'll
whatever.
have you know, Kevin, their celebrity is so impressive they can get a table in any Denny's or IHOP just like that.
Is that true? Yeah, probably is, huh?
Oh yeah, I assume so. Anyone can get a table in the Denny's.
Yeah. Well, I can do that too, but I usually have to slip them a $20 bill.
Give me a proof. I wouldn't say Melgar Ketchum is that famous in Bigfooting anymore. Just sort of a punchline, really, Gabby. One Bigfoot on many big feet from Tickler Nesler. Clever name.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think, even if you were to say huge names in UFO, like Bob Lazar or something like that, most people don't even know who that is. You know what I mean?
Listen, the search for a giant, hairy, undiscovered ape is completely logical, right? Those UFO people are nuts.
Right? I mean, it's like, like if I was going to say, name a certain person, name a famous person in a ghost field, I would have to say Derek Cora and that field thing. Those are the two most famous people I know in ghosts. And Barry, the guy from Northern Ireland who's in Ghost Hunters International.
Patrick Swayze.
Yeah.
He was famous in Ghosts. I don't know any of the UFO people or the paranormal people. The paranormal people are even crazier than the UFO people. It's not, have you ever seen that spirit box thing they've got? That
Oh yeah. Oh,
it just scans AM and FM frequencies. You got to pick up something. All right.
Well, yeah, but the key thing that it says is, and I don't believe it, that basically it scans, goes through the FM frequency so fast that it doesn't stay on any one, frequency long enough for it to complete a word or anything like that. So the fact that it says something like an entire word or a short sentence is the fact that it's that somebody is manifesting the signs coming from that into somebody else. But it always just sounds to me like like whenever it's going through the thing and it just stops on it for a few like microseconds and then that's it. You know what I mean? I don't know about the spirit box thing. I mean, and it's annoying. And why is it that whenever you turn it on, it turns on at full blast? Volume wise. Richard, these are things that I want to know. And I do believe in ghosts, by the way. I know that's a surprise for you to say that, but I do believe in ghosts. I 100% believe in ghosts and people from the other side. But,
Have you ever seen one?
Have I ever seen a ghost?
Yeah.
I'm trying to think if I never have seen a ghost, but I definitely believe that people can come through from the other side, but I've never seen it. No, I've never seen it.
Tom, have you ever seen a ghost?
No, I haven't, but I have heard a lot of people who have or who've had paranormal and supernatural experiences. And I've seen enough, I've heard enough to believe that there is some sort of spiritual dimension to this world. I mean, it's enough for me to not be a humanist as such. I'm agnostic, and I believe that in enough of beyond atoms. I believe that there's enough. Too many things have happened. Too many unexplainable things happen for me to believe that it's impossible for ghosts to exist. So I think it's all perfectly possible. And yeah, you just can't explain certain things without believing in something beyond atoms.
Mhm. Well, I mean, is it really even that sort of strange to us? From a scientific standpoint, I mean, this idea of a pan-dimensional being who, can spread across multiple dimensions and may enter into this one. I don't think that's I don't think that's totally strange in fact. I mean, it may not be that we're going to have interactions with it or whatever. Uh, I
Yeah,
don't know about that.
yeah,
But I mean, I do think that we share our space with other things that we can't see or feel.
yeah.
Yeah.
I like that you pointed out that we're not necessarily meant to interact with it, because when people sort of ask, is there a God or is there not? Well, it's also a question of what type of God. It doesn't need to be one that you necessarily worship or indeed seek a particular relationship with. If I think the closest example I can come to for what I happen to think is most likely is it's something like the Force in Star Wars. It's Mother Nature type thing. It's something that doesn't want our attention particularly. It doesn't want our worship. It's just or it's barely even a sentient life form in its own right. I mean, it's just something there, there's something beyond atoms. I don't think it's a deity I don't think it's a deity that particularly wants worshipping.
Right.
If it's a deity, it wants to just do its own thing and leave us
Yeah.
in peace, like a big blue whale swimming through the ocean.
Well, I mean, a lot of people don't realize that, for example, a lot of people make the idea that America is based on certain ideas, Christian values, or whatever. And that's not necessarily true. I mean, but at the time of that America was founded, Thomas Jefferson was a deist. He believed sort of just like what you believe, Tom, that there was a person who created the universe, whatever that would be, a thought or whatever. Somebody thought the universe into existence, or there had to be some original idea. The Big Bang, what happens before it, what happens. I mean, something had to, put that there. But he didn't necessarily believe in, like God gets involved in whether, you pray to God and he's going to make sure you win the lottery, or the crops are going to come in this week, or make sure nothing bad ever happens to you or whatever. You see, just basically that he believed in a higher power, but that was just the universe. You know what I'm saying? That there was not necessarily anything that was dictating your life or anything from that standpoint. So, but it was very interesting that a lot of people thought he couldn't win because of the fact that he was a deist, and it was a big scandal that he was obviously, I think, yeah, he was from Virginia and up and in the more northerly parts of New England and stuff. They really had a problem with it. Didn't want to vote for him. A lot of these folks, because he did not have this idea of a God and the Son of God and everything like that. It just didn't, you know, that was it. But he did believe in monotheism, but he didn't necessarily believe in the same idea of what God was. And so, but then people never talk about that. You see what I'm saying? I mean, that would be interesting to talk about that, uh, as a truth, but that doesn't seem to get talked about very much. How about you, Richard? Have you ever seen a ghost?
Never seen a ghost. When my niece died, I swore I heard a banshee laugh.
Yeah.
Yeah. I was
And,
woken up. The
and you're
night she died, I was woken up by a long scream. Now, it could have been an animal. Not saying. It was just weird it happened the night she died.
Yeah. And this was your. Now I know you've got Irish folks in your family. Was this
Yeah.
from the Irish side?
No, it was, well, it wasn't even by niece by blood. It was my wife's niece, but I was very close. I taught her how to play chess.
Yeah.
You know, her sister's boyfriend beat her to death. It was kind of horrible. But yeah, that's the only paranormal thing I've ever had happen to me.
Oh, that's terrible. That's terrible. That's sort of violence against. I don't know, man. I don't know. That's sort of. I just can't believe it. I just can't believe. I mean, I don't know why I have such a hard time believing that stuff happens, because it happens all the time. But it's just the senselessness of it. I'm sorry.
Well, it's all right. It's like
Ouch.
15 years ago now, but yeah, it was pretty shit. Anyway, speaking of unnecessary violence, shall we move on to the topic?
Yes.
'Twas the night of December 22nd, 2012. Does that set the scene? Near Christmas. Everyone's
just after the London Olympics.
All the old snows on the ground and everything. Jamie and Sandy Melgar, married couple, Jehovah's Witnesses as well, if that's worth anything to anyone, had enjoyed a lovely evening of, what mutual consenting adults do together that have been married for a certain amount of years.
So nothing then?
Actually,
wait,
no.
My wife's swinging something at me now here. No, get away. No, it's all right. I beat it, I was going to say I beat her off, but then that side's really bad. Beat her back.
So,
all right.
No, they were enjoying, a bit of coitus, shall we say?
Oh, this is part of the actual story?
Yeah, this is a story.
Okay, so this is actually true. They were in the midst of love making.
They'd finished love making. This is critical to the police's theory, actually. So they just finished doing the dirty. Sandy, when the dogs started barking outside, Jamie Melgar got up to go check what the dogs were doing. Sandy got out of the hot tub. They were in a hot tub. Can you imagine? And went into her room, and then she had a seizure or passed out or something. She blanked out. She woke up several hours later. She was tied up in the closet. Her wrists were bound so tight that someone had to cut her out of them. And that's it. That's the next thing she remembers. Jamie's brother and sister and two nieces came for dinner to their house the next day. They couldn't get an answer from the door. They tried calling, so they broke in and they found Sandy tied and gagged, and they had to cut her out. In the next room was Jamie Melgar, who had been really brutally murdered. Like, he had 30 knife wounds, and he was tied up with, the old cord they used to have on phones. That when they had landline phones.
Right. Okay.
He's tied up with one of those, and it's really gone to town on him. So, you think, damn, that's horrible, right? You would think that, yeah?
Oh, I definitely thinking so far it's completely terrible.
And something is about to go wrong. Well, even more wrong.
Well, I'm not advocating for either side on this, because I will explain at the end why, but I'm not going either way. All I will say is the police honed in on Sandy as the primary suspect for the murder. They were pretty much convinced she did it. They harassed her. Well, they interviewed her for a day and a few. Sorry, my brain went down. So anyway, yeah, they honed in on her as the main suspect. They interviewed her. They collected evidence. Blah blah blah. Went to trial. Sandy was convicted. Right. She's currently in jail for life, but she is appealing it. Now, the reason why I'm bringing it up is because both sides of this case are asking a lot of you. It doesn't really make sense from either side of the coin, if you know what I mean. If she's now, I'll get into the reason for that now. She had a litany of health problems, right? She had epilepsy, rheumatoid arthritis, lupus, bone grafts in her hips, hip replacements. She had a history of seizures and memory issues. She walked with a cane. She couldn't work. She was completely dependent on Jamie for a sense of source of income. That was her situation. Now, the crime scene itself was equally bizarre. There were things that had been thrown into a washing basin to be washed. There were towels in the hot tub. Very little. Sandy said it was a home invasion, but very little, if anything. It's never really been 100% confirmed if anything was taken from the house. Sandy said that a TV and several other things were removed, but the police were like, nah, nothing was taken. So, so someone broke into the house. Her version is somebody broke into the house, killed Jamie, and robbed the place, but didn't take anything, right?
Mm-hmm.
Police say that she did it despite the litany of health issues. There's it's just, those are the case. That's the facts of the case. The crime scene was a mess. There was blood on the safe to the house. There was a safe in the house. There was blood on it. Nobody ever bothered testing that blood. I'm like, there was blood everywhere. It was a very brutal murder, but the police, for whatever reason, were convinced it was Sandy.
Right.
And she was convicted.
I mean, I don't know. I have a hard time believing that it was her, to be honest with you. I mean, that she would actually have done it. You know what I mean? Obviously, I mean, are we into that time where you want people to give?
Yeah, just talk.
Okay, well, here's the reason why. Because rheumatoid arthritis and lupus and stuff like that, those are autoimmune diseases, and they cause inflammation in joints and hands and different parts of your body and everything like that. And so it would make it very, very difficult to go ahead and do any of those things. Even from grasping a knife to stab somebody that many times to doing that, let alone then being able to tie somebody up with a flex cord or whatever to do it. So it's difficult. Now, could you say, oh well, it could be a contract for hire thing? Maybe. I mean, if she's in the closet, sort of tied up, and there would have been that much, for a period of time. Obviously, if you're very, very tightly bound, obviously what's happened is which is what happened to her, is that there was swelling on both sides of the thing and everything. Like, so that would have meant that she was in that position for a long time.
The prosecution never denied that. They in fact made a big deal about it in the trial, showing how you could do it all yourself. Only during the trial, it was really loosely fitted on the prosecutor. In reality, it was so tight, it left marks on her skin, and they had to cut her free.
Right.
But the flex cord thing was part of the police's theory. They said that Sandy had tied Jamie up during the whole coitus thing for a bit of kinky fun, and then brutally murdered him.
Right. So she, while they were having sex in the hot tub, tied him up, dragged him out of the hot tub into the ground, and then stabbed him a bunch of times.
Yeah, that's if she's guilty. That's the theory, that a woman that walked with a cane overpowered and brutally murdered a man who was much bigger and much more physically active than her.
Right. That's bullshit.
Okay, the big question for me: what is the supposed motive? What
she wanted out of her marriage was the only thing the prosecution could come up with.
What?
But she was a Jehovah's Witness, and they don't believe in divorce. If she,
They don't believe in murdering people.
yeah, well, I said it was the prosecution. It was a
Oh,
very
okay.
vague motive. I mean, and they themselves admitted that during the trial. They didn't really know why she'd done it, but they were just sure she had done it.
Well, that's that old statistical thing that says that if a wife dies or a husband dies, statistically speaking, it's the partner that they live with is the other person who did it. I mean, statistically speaking, that's correct, right? But that doesn't make this. I mean, you can't just back. And where was this? Where did this crime take place, Richard?
Texas.
Oh, okay.
Just okay.
Oh, well, I'm not. I mean, like, well, hey, listen, Texas doesn't need. I mean, I'm sorry to our Texan friends, but science doesn't really mean a whole lot in Texas anyway. So, I mean, you know, it is what it is. I mean, that's that crazy sort of Texas thing, a way of thinking about stuff. I mean, I don't know what else to tell you, but it seems to me like that was based on nothing. And if your basic idea in the whole part of it is, oh well, that's what we think, and we're just going to throw it up against the wall and see if it sticks, and it does, then I feel terrible for the lady. You know what I mean? I mean, it seems to me like you've got to prove something, you know, at a certain point in time, especially if you're saying that for whatever reason, um, they didn't test any of these things for real forensic evidence.
Well, if I tell you that the lead detective on the case was fired 2 years after the Melgar case for forging search warrants, that might give you an insight into the competency of the police investigation.
Well, right, but then if that's the case, then why is this person sort of not out on at least a retry on a re-
Well, because you're only looking at the reason she might be innocent.
Yeah, but that's not how I mean, isn't that I mean, I understand.
Don't forget, if she's innocent, it
Yeah.
means someone broke into her house, brutally murdered her husband. She had a seizure, an epileptic seizure, despite not having one for years prior. At that exact moment, because she was tied up and bound and left alive, despite the fact the other dude was brutally murdered, and virtually nothing was taken from the house.
Right. I understand that, but what I'm saying is okay. Look at it from this standpoint. Um, she's a not well lady.
Yeah.
They are in the hot tub, at which a person. I bet you she had more than one health problem that probably said, "Don't get in a hot tub with your condition." You know, look at it from that standpoint. So she's in a hot tub that she probably you're not. I mean, technically, according to the things on a hot tub, you're not supposed to get into a hot tub for more than 9 minutes anyway, and that's if you don't have any of these problems. Then they're in there getting jiggy with it, so her heart rate's way up. She gets out, passes out. I could see that happening. You know what I mean? She's exhausted. She's overwrought. She gets out of the tub, gets into her room, passes out. You know, from overexertion, from being in a hot tub. And at that point in time, somebody else. I'm not saying it sounds great. Like I said, you know, I would imagine, if it were me and I was thinking about it, the other two people who show up and then let her out of the thing where they have to cut her out. Those would be the two people I'd be looking at. You know what I mean? Like like she hired them, or they were her accomplices, or her accomplice, or something like that. I don't know, but it just seems to me like I don't think physically she could have done it on her own. That's just how I look at it. I know I
Yeah.
could be wrong, but It is interesting that I think that in some places these Texas is very weird in comparison to other places in the United States, because I think a lot of places in Texas that the coroner is not necessarily even a doctor. You know what I mean? There's weird laws in Texas about who does what and certifies what or whatever, and um, it's very odd. Some places that has to do with that, but anyway.
And lest you not forget, the killer had no way of knowing that she'd had a seizure and was out for the night. As far as he was concerned, that was another living witness.
Right.
This is if she's innocent. So why didn't he kill her as well? Why did he throw that shit in the washing basin to clean it off? Why did he put towels in the hot tub if he existed? And why didn't he take anything? You see, it doesn't make any sense.
At this point, you need a third hypothesis. One that accounts somebody did it, but no one they think someone else is involved that we haven't factored in yet, or something like that. I'd need to look into the details of the case more and read up on it and see if you could piece those all the pieces of the puzzle we have, see if what other possible missing pieces, and then, I mean, it's all what's the word for it? It's all like projection and conjecture. It's all word. It's
not conjecture, really, Tom. She is completely innocent because a suspect of a history of violence, drug charges, and robbery was reported by the press in the area, and unknown DNA that didn't belong to the Melgars was found in several key areas through the house by independent investigators. So she probably is innocent, to be fair.
Yeah, but okay. Well, that's fine. So you think that they're okay? So somebody else came in and probably I was going to say that Tom was on the right track, because you don't know that for example, a lot of times there's jealousy about things, and you get a position in the church and somebody else wanted that position in the church, or you got a new position at your job and somebody else wanted that. I mean, let's not forget that Jehovah's Witnesses only think that 100,000 people can get into heaven, so maybe somebody wanted to go.
Yes, nobody likes Jehovah's Witnesses. Right?
No, I'm just joking.
The amount of time they're still at it, even though Christ was supposed to come back in 2001, they're still at it. They still come to my house every month. And I'm just like, seriously? Just give up, guys. But
well, but anyway, the thing about it is that, for example, that you do, I mean, you know how it is, Richard, and these are churches who not necessarily have paid clergy or elders in the church or whatever. And so this is all done by people who, are ordaining people in the congregation to do it, and that causes a lot of issues. Sometimes, like I'm in charge of this, or I'm in charge of that, and I can tear a congregation apart if you get somebody who's jealous about that kind of stuff, or jobs or whatever. And so, I mean, I that's why I think Tom was right. Like, you'd have to really look into the other circumstances as well, as far as who could possibly have a motive as well. And then knowing that, and she's passed out, and you try to rouse her, she's just asleep, and you tie her up. That's a bonus, because then okay, if she can't be woken up, or and she's passed out, you tie her up, then that she's going to be at least the first suspect. You know what I'm saying? So
yeah, I mean, she made the critical mistake of talking to the police without asking for a lawyer. Always, especially if you're innocent, ask for a lawyer when you talk to the police. Never talk to the police without a lawyer. Never.
Yeah, but people don't do it because they think that makes them look guilty.
That makes them look guilty. That's just a tactic police use. The polygraph doesn't work, yet they still use it as a bloody prop to make suspects confess. You can't trust police. They are people, and people are inherently lazy. They just want to close the case and move on.
Yeah, and don't forget that, in America, and I know this sounds crazy, it is legal for a police officer to lie to you about the evidence they have.
No, I find that completely acceptable.
Yeah,
I don't have a problem with the police using the polygraph as a prop to make people confess. I don't have a problem with police lying to you, but just don't talk to them without a lawyer.
Yeah, you gotta get your lawyer. That's for sure, because they but you see, this is the thing, and a lot of times it's one of those things where, it's going to seem like that's not something that will cause a problem, or it's this or that. But you see that this is the thing, right? Because you're told that you're not supposed to do it. But your rights are your rights, and that's what you should do. Is always look for your own rights, because even though you might have to spend a little time down at the police station, you're going to get locked up for a wee bit until your lawyer shows up or whatever. It's still better in the long run for your own.
That's something you don't know. Yeah, they can lie to you. Yeah, they can use things against you that don't have any bearing, like the polygraph. But you don't have to talk to them without a lawyer. You don't have to talk to them at all. You can just sit there in silence. They can't make you talk. Get a lawyer, especially if you're innocent.
Well, I think part of the issue is that none of us in school, really, honestly, we should be told this is your rights. This is what happens. I mean, if you get picked up by the police, this is what you should do or what you shouldn't do. These are your options. The 98% of what we know about the law comes from television, right?
Yep.
And that's it. It becomes an issue whenever people who are in Britain who watch Law and Order Special Victims Unit start applying American law to British law and all those different types of things. I mean, that's the way that is. It's a very, very. I mean, like, people in America can't believe that there's no money for bail system in Britain. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so, which is far, far, far more equitable. You know what I mean? So, obviously, if you're a poor guy in America and you get accused of this crime, and your bail is $100,000 or whatever, you're not getting out. You know what I mean? And that's the difference. If in Britain you're put out on bail, then you're put on bail no matter how rich you are or how poor you are or whatever. So that's that. But of course, Britain's a bit smaller place. So.
Anyway, you got anything to add there, Tom?
Not hugely. It's blimey, the police. I think most police are very, very good people, but it's the few who really abuse their power, unfortunately, are the ones that become most notorious. I mean, police do heroic. People like the emergency services do stuff to the level of what Captain Sullenberger in the film Sully, Miracle on the Hudson. People do that kind of thing all the time without being recognised, and it's the ones that murdered Sarah Everard or Derek Chauvin, who murdered George Floyd. It's people like that end up being the household names, which is a real shame. But
it's also interesting, Tom, to realize that from from a standpoint of metropolitan police forces, they haven't been around for that long. I mean, I mean, isn't the London that the one of the oldest police forces in the world, or?
And that goes back to about 1829, I believe. They were founded by
Yeah,
the Conservative government of the time, or very close to that time.
yeah. But what I'm saying is that's not even that really that old that the history
No,
of of police forces are that. I mean, and most I would imagine most towns or places like that, they didn't have a sheriff. I mean, like if you live in the West, like we did, like I do. I mean, in the Western states of America. I mean, you know, here's your badge. You're the law now. I mean, how are you supposed to even? I mean, I know that that's not technically true because of all these different things, but you didn't really have a big, constabulary force, and you weren't really. Nobody was investigating murders and things like that. Those are relatively new things, but and so it is odd that we start to realize that police forces are fairly a new thing in the history of civilization, and we realize that sometimes police people can do bad things, and most of the time they're trying to do good things. But just like in any case, there's back in the day, whenever fire services came out, and it was not a public fire insurance thing. Like you'd have to have a plaque on your house, and they'd come to it, and then they'd say, "Oh, well, that's not us." You know what I mean? Well, you've got the wrong plaque on your house, and they would wait for the other people to come, and they'd watch it burn until the people that you paid fire insurance to would come and put your house out. You know what I mean? So I
Yeah.
mean that's but it is interesting that in a lot of ways we have been so. It seems like to me, like as much as we make the world out to be a very, very cold place, it used to be a lot colder. You know, I would imagine in the 1800s and the early.
yeah.
Well, yeah, they didn't have any central heating.
I
Good.
know what you mean.
All right, that'll wrap us up for this week. We will return next week. Kevin, are you going to be here next week?
Yeah, well, I'm planning on being here and now from the till the end
Of time.
yeah.
What
Well,
would
no,
you like to talk about next week?
um, I really, as far as that goes, I haven't really thought about it. You know what I'd like to talk about? I
What?
would like to talk about good science fiction novels or something like that we've read lately that are funny. I mean, does that make sense? I started to read this new set of science fiction novels, and I thought they were pretty witty and intelligent. And I was just wondering if anybody else had that. We all seem to read things, and so I thought that would be kind of or you could just talk about whatever book. But I was going to talk about my a new book that I've started to read by a guy named. Funny, the last name is Yahtzee, and it's like we'll save the galaxy for food is the name of his book, the first book. Anyway, I don't know. Is that okay? Or
Yeah, that's fine.
Yeah,
Get behind
science fiction read that
No,
are
Gabby.
amusing and
No,
entertaining.
no, Gabby. No.
what?
That thing is stupid, even by paranormal tools.
That's
Standard.
that.
She wants us to do an episode on the spirit box.
Oh, on the spirit box.
Yeah.
Well, we can play an example of it, but I mean, I think that's about as bad.
Yeah,
I
we
mean-
can talk about how utterly ludicrous it is. But
I
we
mean,
already did that.
all we have to do is show an episode of Shane Madej and Ryan Bagara, thing of
Those
the day,
features.
flipping
Yeah.
out by the fact that Ryan wants to use it at every set show, and it drives Shane today crazy.
Because it's a stupid device. But okay, this will wrap us up for this week. We will return next week, despite the hopes of many. It's good night from me, and it's good night from them. Good night.
Night, everyone.
Good night, everyone.